Hello, friends and family. Today's topic will be a short story about a tall angel. Let's begin. You're not going to believe this, Sam said, his voice tight with excitement. But I saw an actual angel today. John looked up from his book, a smirk playing on his lips. Come on, Sam. You're not serious. Angels aren't real. Sam leaned in, his eyes wide. I am. It was tall, with wings that spread wider than a 747, and it was walking down the street like it owned the place, right in the middle of downtown. John set his book aside. His curiosity piqued despite his skepticism. Okay, so what did it do? Sam took a deep breath, his eyes glazing over as he recalled the scene. It was like nothing stopped for it. Cars drove around it, people walked through it. It was like a ghost or something. John raised an eyebrow. A ghost angel? That's a new one. I know it sounds crazy, Sam admitted, rubbing the back of his neck. But I swear, it was real. It had this aura, like the air around it was shimmering. And it was so beautiful. It was like staring into the sun. John studied Sam for a moment, his smirk fading. Okay. Let's say I buy it for a second. What happened next? Sam's gaze drifted back to the spot where he'd seen the angel, his mind racing with the vivid memory. It stopped outside the bakery, just stood there, looking at the window display. I thought maybe it was going to go in, but it didn't. It just hovered. John leaned back in his chair, arms folded. And then what? Did it sprout a halo and start handing out heavenly donuts? Sam's cheeks reddened. No, nothing like that. It just stared. I don't know what it was looking at, but it was intense. He paused, searching for the right words. Its eyes. They were like pools of light, but sad. So sad. Like it was lost or something. John leaned forward, his skepticism momentarily forgotten. What did you do? Sam swallowed hard. I don't know. I just stood there, watching it. I couldn't move, and then it looked at me. John's eyes narrowed. It saw you? Sam nodded, his heart racing at the mere memory. Yeah, it turned its head and looked right at me, and for a second, it was like everything else just disappeared. The sounds of the city, the smells, everything. It was just me and that angel. John leaned closer, his voice low. And then? Sam shuddered, the coldness of the angel's gaze still palpable. It just knew me, like it could see into my soul. I felt all my secrets laid bare, and then it spoke. John's eyes widened. It talked to you? Sam nodded, his voice barely a whisper. Yeah, it said, you are needed. Just like that. And then it vanished. John stared at him, his mouth open. It talked to you and then disappeared? Just like that? Yeah, Sam said, his voice shaking slightly. It was so intense. And the thing is, I don't know what it means. You are needed. What does that even mean? John sat back, his skepticism now a distant memory. Maybe it was a sign, he murmured, his eyes thoughtful. Sam's eyes snapped to him. A sign? Like from God? John shrugged. Could be, or maybe it was just your brain playing tricks on you, but either way, it's got you shook up, that's for sure. Sam nodded, his thoughts racing. I can't shake the feeling that it was real, though, and that it had a message for me. John leaned back, stroking his chin. Okay, let's think this through. You've never had any visions or hallucinations before, right? Sam frowned, trying to remember. No, nothing like this, but I've heard of people seeing things, especially when they're stressed. John nodded. True, but if it was a hallucination, it was one hell of a vivid one. And why an angel? What could you possibly need to do that's so important? Sam's mind raced, as he replayed the encounter. "I don't know," he said slowly, "but it felt urgent, like it was a warning or something." John leaned forward, his tone serious. "You don't think it had anything to do with your job, do you?" Sam's eyes widened. "What? Why would an angel be interested in my job?" John leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "You work at that tech startup, right? The one that's rumored to be developing something big?" Sam nodded, his heart racing. "Yeah, but it's all just speculation. Nothing's been confirmed." John leaned back, tapping his fingers on the armrest of his chair. "Still, it's worth considering. What if you've stumbled upon something that's not meant for human hands?" Sam's thoughts immediately jumped to the confidential project he'd been working on. It was top secret, even within the company. All he knew was that it had the potential to change the world, but he had no idea how. "What do you mean?" John leaned in closer, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "Think about it, Sam. You're working on something that could be a game changer, right? Maybe it's so big that it's drawing the attention of, well, higher powers." Sam's frown deepened as he contemplated John's words. The project at his startup had indeed been shrouded in secrecy, and the implications of its success were staggering. It was an AI system capable of predicting natural disasters with unparalleled accuracy, potentially saving countless lives. But he'd never thought about it in such a supernatural context. John continued, "What if this angel is trying to warn you about the consequences of playing God? Maybe the power you're about to unleash is too much for one person to handle." Sam's pulse quickened as the weight of the angel's words sank in. He'd always had a feeling that the project was too good to be true, but he'd shrugged it off as paranoia. Now, with John's theory, the pieces began to fall into place. He had to know more. "What do you think I should do?" Sam asked, his voice trembling slightly. John leaned back in his chair, contemplating the gravity of the situation. "First, keep it to yourself. If this is something big, you don't want to be the one spreading it around. Second, find out everything you can about that project without arousing suspicion." Sam nodded, his thoughts racing. He knew that John was right. The fewer people who knew about this, the better. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his nerves. "Okay, but what if it's too late? What if I'm already in over my head?" John's expression grew serious. "You're not in this alone, Sam. We'll figure it out together. But you need to be careful. If this angel is real and it's trying to send you a message, then it's probably something important." Sam nodded, his mind racing. He thought of the late nights at the office, the whispers behind closed doors, and the intense pressure from his boss to keep pushing the boundaries of what was possible. The AI they were developing could indeed be seen as playing God, if it could predict disasters with such accuracy that it could prevent them from happening. The next day at work, he couldn't focus on anything but the angel's message. Every time he approached his workstation, his heart pounded in his chest. The screens of code and data looked like hieroglyphs, a puzzle with a piece missing. He found himself wandering the halls, looking for clues or signs that would explain the encounter. He noticed that the security had been tightened, and a few new faces had appeared, all wearing stern expressions and speaking in hushed tones into their earpieces. The secrecy surrounding their project had always been high, but this felt different. The air was charged with tension, like the calm before a storm. "Thank you for your time. God bless."